I'm just going to quickly run through the composition of our external walls. So obviously a huge feature of any house to perform well thermally is to ensure that you've got a well-designed and well-insulated external wall system. Particularly for this house, to be able to get such a high Green Star rating is we really have to make sure that insulation is dealt with on a number of layers and that it's installed correctly as well. So what we've got standard 90mm house frames. Within the actual stud walls, we're installing a new product from James Hardie. Because we're in a flame zone, our external wall needs to be a 60-minute tested fire-rated wall. So a few of these components have been provided by James Hardie, and this is their new insulation that we're using. Obviously it's a fire-resistant insulation, but also because it is so dense, it gives a really high 2.8R rating, which is the highest we've come across for a 90mm wall. So it's a great product, particularly for this house, and it really needs to install snugly between studs to ensure there's no air gaps in the walls at all. Another layer of insulation that we've decided to install to really increase and make sure that our external walls are super insulated is a layer of 50mm PIR foam installed to the outside face of the stud. So we're using a closed cell PIR foam, and an advantage of the foam is that it's also airtight and fairly impervious to water as well. But it's quite a dense foam, and it provides an additional 2.5R rating to the wall. It's screwed in from the outside, and we ensure that we've foam filled all of the gaps. So when joining the polystyrene, the actual PIR foam, we've used a foam filler to ensure that it's airtight and that there are no gaps for transfer of energy at all. We'll pop outside and I'll show you the outside of the composition of the wall as well. So here we are on the outside face of the external wall. As you can see here, the vapor membrane has been installed over the foam. So as I mentioned before, we have 50mm PIR foam fixed to the face of our studwork. Then over the front of that, we use a vapor membrane. So again, as part of the Hardie system that we're trialling on the house, is we're using their new Hardie's wrap, which is a very high-end and high-performing vapor barrier. And the advantage of this barrier is, one, it's reflective, as you can see. So it produces a reflective air gap between the battens and the cladding that go on. There is a 35mm reflective air gap, which helps the thermal properties of the wall immensely. But also the membrane itself is breathable, so it helps with transference of moisture through from the outside, from the inside out and outside in. So it helps it allows the house to breathe correctly as well. As I mentioned before, we place 35mm battens over the vapor membrane, and on top of those battens we're using James Hardie's linear cladding. So it's one of their Scion range products that's 16mm thick. And again, is an important feature of the wall that adds to the 60-minute fire rating. And I'll just show you part of that's been installed on one of the dormers of the roof. So we're up on the roof in front of one of our dormers. It's one of 9 that's been designed and constructed on the pilot house. And as you can see, James Hardie linear product has been installed to all our dormers so far. We've been testing out some paint colours. These aren't the final colours that have been chosen, but typically we would come through and patch and sand and prepare this, but this is just for a selection process. But an important advantage of James Hardie's linear product is that it's a fibre cement based product, so it's non-combustible. With this pilot house being in a flame zone, we can't have anything combustible on the outside, so unfortunately no timber elements whatsoever. So no timber windows, they're aluminium, as I've gone through. Even the trims here, it's a Hardie's trim, so again it's a CFC trim that is framing the window, as well as the corners. We've used it this way for the first time, and Hardie's haven't seen it used this way, and that we're mitering to and forming a corner. And on top of these trims, what's being installed are the fire shutters. So as I've explained earlier in the blog, is that because of the bushfire zone, we need full block-out, non-combustible shutters. And those shutters have been sized to the same size of these trims around the windows. And the guides will be installed in this location, and they'll be used as blinds. They're an important feature that we're utilising. Normally, we probably wouldn't install them. They're a bit bulky, but they're required for the flame zone. But because we've got them, we'll utilise them as well to help shield heat gain from the windows. Although the windows are very efficient, this will completely block out any direct heat gain from the sun in hot days. So we are also installing sensors on the inside pane of glass, and if that pane of glass gets to a certain temperature that's been set, the shutters will close automatically.